What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to Philly with Jon Marks on PHLY. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Everybody that's watching live on YouTube, what is up? Welcome. Yeah, mad chatters. If you're watching live every morning at 8 o'clock, get involved in the chat, get involved in the show. And we appreciate all of our chatters, our mad chatters out there every single morning long. So you can watch the show live on YouTube. You can watch it whenever you want to. It's available on demand, of course, 24/7. You can archive our old shows, look at some of our old interviews. Just search PHLY Sports on YouTube, and you can find us. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're gaining followers. We're gaining subscribers. We're gaining comments and likes. Comment on the show. Like the show. Subscribe to PHLY. We appreciate it. Everybody out there now watching on TV, we are available live on Xfinity, on Roku, on Samsung Plus. So more and more places, these are the fast channels you can watch us. So just speak into your Xfinity remote or search it, PHLY, and it comes up. It's as simple as that. Literally on my remote, I'm like, oh, we're Xfinity now, PHLY. Boom! We were right there. 28,000 subscribers now on YouTube and growing. That's a lot. That's a couple thousand since I started here about 2 months ago. So that is awesome. We're growing as a family. We're growing as a community. Very good to see. So it was a great weekend to be an Eagle fan and to be a Philadelphia sports fan. Tyler said it to me when he came in, and I think it's how everybody across the Delaware Valley and beyond felt when we woke up on Sunday morning. We already had a win in our back pocket. We beat the divisional rival or our divisional foe. Very clearly, the Eagles become the team to beat in the NFC East. And now it's about playing your best football down the stretch and really fine-tuning everything and figuring everything else out. But it was just great yesterday to wake up and to have a nice, easy morning. No stress, no worry about a game. And then, I mean, I don't know about everybody else out there. Maybe there was some pumpkin picking or apple picking or something. I watched Red Zone. I was cleaning, doing laundry, and watching Red Zone all day. And a great early window of Red Zone. But the late games were like, yeah, you had a couple big games that were good. But still, the early window of Red Zone was great. So after you finish watching the games, the obvious question, and a lot of people are going to be talking about this today, whether you're doing something digital like us or you're doing a podcast or you're doing sports radio, is like, all right, well, like, where are the Eagles right now? How do we feel about the Eagles going forward? And by the way, the show is always presented by Bet Parks because the Eagles are a healthy 3-point favorite against the Rams on the road on Sunday Night Football. The Rams beat the Patriots yesterday, so they got to travel all the way back to the West Coast. And they host the Eagles Sunday Night Football. Eagles are 3-point favorites. So, like, how do we feel about the Eagles right now? And so the first thing you do is just say, like, okay, how is the team playing? And then what does the rest of the NFL look like? What does the rest of the conference look like, right? And if you've been watching the Detroit Lions recently, man, they are rolling. They put up 7 straight touchdowns yesterday against the Jacksonville Jags. And poor Doug. Doug's going to get whacked here probably later today because giving up 7 straight touchdowns, was it 52-6? Was the final. And he's been teetering on getting whacked as it is. They have a bye week. The Jags go into a bye week. Maybe he doesn't get whacked, but it seemed like it was setting up. I know, I think Rap Sheet had put out there that this game and the competitiveness of this game could determine Doug Pederson's future. So if you're using that barometer, he's surely to get whacked. But the Lions are rolling right now, right? So it had me thinking, we're through week 11 in the NFL right now. So, like, how you're playing after week 11, is that a good measuring stick for where you're going to be at the end of the season? So in other words, if you're playing your best football right now, is this something that, A, you can sustain until you're playing in the playoffs, and B, is that a good thing? So remember the Eagles last year. So I went back the last 5 seasons, and I looked at the NFL as a whole. And I said, all right, what were the best teams doing, the eventual Super Bowl champions? What were they doing after week 11? So right now the Eagles are 11-2. The Eagles are 8-2. The Lions are 9-1. And the Lions right now are the class of the NFC. They're probably the class of the NFL. In the AFC, it's very much a toss-up. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers. There's a couple of really good teams, and then like the Ravens, who lost a tough one yesterday. But in 2023, after Week 11, if you remember, the Eagles, they were 9-1, but they just beat the Chiefs. That was Monday Night Football. That was on the road, and it was an impressive win. So it's like, all right, it was one of these wins where there was a lot of bitching and complaining that the Eagles haven't beaten anybody, that they were less than impressive in their wins. They were finding ways to win games, but still, there wasn't a lot of people impressed with what they did, what they were doing. So they beat the Chiefs on the road Monday Night Football, the defending Super Bowl champions and the eventual Super Bowl champions. In the NFC, the Cowboys were 7-3. The Niners were 7-3. The Chiefs fell to 7-3. The Dolphins were also 7-3. The Ravens had the best record in the league in the Browns. So there was a bunch of teams muddled in the AFC, and the Eagles were the class of the NFC. We know what happened with them. Boom, they were gone. 2022, so the Niners were 7-3. The Niners eventually went to the Super Bowl. So they were right there, kind of not the best team in the NFL, but they were in that elite tier. In 2022, after Week 11, the Eagles beat the Colts 17-16 to improve to 9-1. So 2 straight seasons at 9-1. But this was the start. If you remember this game, this was the game where at the end, Jalen Hurts essentially just ran the ball down the field on the final drive to get the game winner. He wasn't throwing it. The offense was not working. They could not get anything going. And he more or less said on the final drive, like, all right, I'm just going to have to put this team on my back and win. And he kind of was scrambling and running, and he went down and they scored and they won. But that started a great streak where after that game, they scored 40 against the Packers, 35 against the Titans, 48 against the Giants, 34 against the Cowboys, and 25 against the Bears. So they went to the Super Bowl. They nearly won the Super Bowl. They were the best team in the NFL. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and they were 8-2 at the time. So they were playing the best football in the AFC, and they made the Super Bowl. The Eagles, the same thing. 2021, after Week 11, the Rams ended up winning the Super Bowl. They were 7-3. The Niners played in the NFC Championship game that year. They were just 5-5, so they were going to go on a hot streak. Packers had 8 wins. They were bounced early. The Bengals were in the Super Bowl. They lost, but they were 6-4. So the 2 teams in the Super Bowl, or the two among the Final Four, were the Bengals 6-4 and the Niners 5-5, not playing great football. The Bucs won after 2020. After Week 11, the Bucs won the Super Bowl, and they were only 7-4 at the time. The Saints had the best record at 8-2. The Packers were 7-3. So I guess my point is, after looking at the last 5 years, you really want to be playing your best football starting pretty much right now. And it makes me feel very confident as an Eagle fan that we're in a really, really good spot. And ultimately, you may have to go to Detroit. You may have to play the Lions on their home field, and you may lose, because that offense is one of the better offenses I can remember in recent memory. I'm sure there's been offenses that have been high-powered like this since the greatest show on turf. But the way that they're performing with 2 running backs, with a couple of really good wide receivers, with Jared Goff, who I know he had 5 interceptions last week. How about a bounce-back performance this week? The defense is good. Their offense isn't just about the players. The scheme is good. Their offense coordinator, Ben Johnson, should have a more than looks this offseason for a head coaching job. He should get the pick of whatever job he wants. That offense looks amazing, and it's more than the players. But the Lions are really, really going to be a tough test. A lot of time left, though. A lot of time left for injuries, for defensive coordinators to say, hey, how do we stop this offense? If you remember, last year, the 49ers game was the game that changed the season for the Eagles, because they got to Jalen Hurts. They busted the Eagles. They really embarrassed them, and the Eagles never recovered from that. And after the game, Bosa said, oh, I'll tell you, Cowboys, here's how you beat the Eagles. You don't let Jalen Hurts escape in the middle of the field, and you pressure him and you rush him up front. And he looks at the pass rush. We saw it coming in. That's what we wanted to do. And the Eagles were done. Jalen Hurts was done. The Eagles were finished. They started blitzing Jalen Hurts all the time, and they had no answer for it. They had absolutely no answer for it. So is there something out there for the Lions and Jared Goff? Yeah, like that's 100% a possibility. But looking at it from an Eagles standpoint, I don't feel like the Eagles have played their best game of the season yet on offense. Defense, they may have played their best games of the season the last 5 weeks. They've been unbelievable. But on offense, have the Eagles really played a complete offensive game? Have they played a great offensive game? Have the Eagles played great complementary football? Special teams, offense, and defense clicking across the board for one game? They haven't. And you're more concerned about special teams now, and really you're talking about the kicker than anything else. But I don't feel like the Eagles have played their best offensive game yet. And they're just in the midst of figuring out what they are offensively. Since the bye week, Tim McManus put out a story that a couple of the Eagles offensive linemen, Landon Dickerson, I think Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson were involved. They went to Nick Sirianni and they said, we should be running the ball more. And since then, since the bye week, they're averaging 23% more rushing yards a game than before the bye week. It's been a conscious effort to run the football. And even when it's not successful, they keep going back to it and they keep going back to it. And what you've seen in recent weeks is it may not be working in the first half, but it works in the second half. Saquon Barkley in a couple of these games didn't have a lot of success in the first half, but they kept going back to him in the second half, and he ends up busting it in the second half. So the Eagles offense hasn't played their best game yet. And that's exciting because when it clicks, and they do, this could be the offense that we talked about all offseason long. Because the passing offense really hasn't been great. Jalen Hurts really hasn't been great. And I'm sure we'll talk about it coming up this week. But like he's been good enough, but he hasn't been great. So I am very much in the feeling very good, confident mode about the Eagles right now because they've played well. Their defense has played great. I don't think their offense has played particularly well. And they can get better from here. There's too much talent in this offense not to. As we bring in Tyler Zulli with our headlines coming up in a second. Tyler, do you feel like the Eagles offense has played their best football of this year? Really, what has been the Eagles' best offensive performance this year when you look at it?
It's a good question. I think probably off the top of my head, the best offensive performance is against Cincinnati.
Bengals, yeah.
I think, and they were pretty effortless in the second half. Specifically, I felt like they really kind of put their foot on the pedal a little bit. You're probably correct that they've not had a complete offensive performance yet, and they're 8-2. Their defense has been electric they've played 10 games. Their defense has probably been electric for 7 or 8 of them. We talked about the Atlanta game way back when, and Tampa's probably the other one where you didn't feel great. But since that point, that's kind of almost been a turning point. The defense has been electric since that moment. Saquon Barkley has been electric. Jalen Hurts in moments has had some really impressive drives. The drive that he had to end the first half against Dallas.
That was a good
after
one.
They struggled for a bulk of the first half, he marched right down the field. He was decisive. He was clean in the pocket. He was quick with his throws. He was aggressive, but not overly aggressive. That drive right there, you've seen that in spurts for him, and the run game has been sustainably incredible for the first 10 games of the season. You put all of that together in any capacity, in the last couple of games of the year and into the playoffs, this is going to be an unbelievably difficult team to beat come playoff time, especially if you are playing at home. And I understand, you want to talk about how much is a home field advantage. You saw it in the NFC Championship game. It's been varying levels of success since then. If this team gets home a couple of home playoff games, even if they do have to go to Detroit for an NFC title game, they're going to be a very difficult out right now come playoff time. They're playing really good football, and they're not playing their best football just yet.
Right. And the fact that they're able to run the football, and I think this team is built for the playoffs.
I think right now, yeah,
because
sure.
Jalen Hurts, say what you want about him, and we talk about that drive against the Cowboys, and it really changed the game. But they had 7 points with under 2 minutes to go in the first half. And that touchdown made it 14-6 and gave you a little bit of breathing room. It took the edge off of it for the second half. And then the Cowboys just totally, the wheels fell off. But they had 3 points at the half against Washington, right? They're when they need to, they're getting big drives. When they need to, they're able in the second half, they get rolling a little bit. I don't know what the hell's happened in the first half. That's a problem. So against a team like the Lions, they play fast. The Eagles are young and athletic. This isn't an aging team where you're getting to the quarterback, but then you're a little bit older in the secondary. No. They're very young and athletic. I mean, look at their guys in the secondary, for God's sakes. They have young studs. We don't even really talk about Darius Slay anymore. And think about that. He's still a good player. But when Quinyon Mitchell matches up against your top guy and they're not even targeting the wide receivers, it's a game changer. This defense is so good right now. And outside of injury or anything like that, I still expect them to be a top defense in the league. And then you get Jalen Hurts in big spots and then playing off of the run. I just think it's a really, really good formula right now with this team. A really good formula. Let's listen, we'll get to the headlines coming up in a second because there's a lot to talk about. The 76ers, they're not supposed to lose to a team like the Magic.
Who?
God. The Flyers had a big win, but anyway, yeah, it's God. All right, let's talk about CJAM construction. That's right. I wonder if Mark's on here right now for CJAM. He is a mad chatter. It's really it's an amazing company, right? So let's give you a little backstory. They are an interior remodeler specializing in bathrooms, floors, and decks, serving all the South Jersey and the Philly suburbs. And the company, all right? CJAM comes from the name of the father, the grandfather's boat. CJAM is the first initial of his 4 kids' names, including CJAM, Marks' dad. It's a one-stop shop contractor. They handle all phases of the remodel so clients don't have to hire multiple contractors for one job. And all their jobs backed by a 1-year labor warranty. They offer financing as well. Flooring, they have amazing CoreLogic floor that is on sale. It comes with 25, 30, or 50-year manufacturer warranty. That's depending on the series that you're buying. And, listen, if you like the show and we're building a community here on Philly with Jon Marks, right, and you know you're getting work done on the house, so you're thinking about getting work done, why not give it to somebody that's on our mad chat every day and say, hey, give a call, get an estimate, see what they can offer you. If you go to the website, cjamconstruction.com, a lot of the stuff they've done on there, Mark sent me pictures of this outdoor deck, covered deck with, it's unbelievable, high-end stuff all over the place. But if you need a new bathroom, whatever, a deck, floors, they're the place to go. cjamconstruction.com or call them, 856-329-2933, 856-329-2933. Tell them that you heard on Philly with Jon Marks. All right, let's talk about my man, Glatt Hair Restoration. That's right. It was over the Glatt. Talking to the Glatt people. I was over there on Wednesday. Was having a little fireside chat with Dr. Ken Morgenstern, who is now directing Glatt Hair Restoration, part of the Morgenstern Center. It's amazing. It really is. The approach to care is the same expert team, the same unmatched Glatt system, same state-of-the-art location, same results. And that's what it's all about. It's about experience and results, and the experience from the Glatt Hair Restoration team. Over 30 years, most in the business. And that means you're getting the best results in the business. So I had a hair restoration procedure. You can see the results. Hair's looking amazing. I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow because, it needs to be tightened up a little bit. I'm going to the razor bar tomorrow after the show. But maybe you don't need full restoration. And this is what you do. You get a hold of the hair team. You talk to Lisa. You talk to Cheryl. And you say, hey, I want to come in for a one-on-one consultation. They're going to give you real feedback. They're not trying to upsell you. They're not trying to get the most money out of you necessarily, right? What they're trying to do is they're going to look at you and say, okay, here's what I think we should do. It's actually, it's like ethical what they're going to do. They're going to tell you exactly what they think. They're not just going to say, hey, you need hair restoration, because there are a lot of other options out there if you're experiencing hair loss, right? Every year I go through some maintenance things, like a TED treatment, which is really, really good for thinning and shedding of your hair. They have topical and oral medications, PRP and stem cell restoration. You know what they're doing these days with medicine. They're taking your blood, they're spinning it around, they're getting all that rich plasma, and then boom, they're putting it in knees, they're putting it in elbows, other people. Well, that's what PRP and stem cell restoration is. There's non-invasive treatments, ton of stuff out there. Get with Glatt Hair Restoration today. You can speak to the hair team right this very second. It's 610-980-4000. 610-980-4000, or visit them at glattshairmctr.com. That's GLAT hair, MCTR.com. There you go. Yes, I am. And I didn't give you a heads up. I was doing the reads like I normally should, but I'm getting, because what ends up happening, I can deal with the top of my hair, and I didn't put product in it today, so I ran out of time. I can deal with the top of the hair. It's the neck hair, Tyler, that's really bad with me, because I'm a hairy person, so I have a hairy back. And like during the summer, I will trim the chest hair. I will bring the chest hair down so I don't look like a gorilla when I go to the pool or the beach. But yeah, so right now the neck hair is really, really like nasty or whatever. So I need to trim up.
Yeah, it's not a piece of conversation that I thought we'd have at 8:21 in the morning on a Monday, but here we are.
Listen, that's what's great about this show is I could literally talk about almost anything at any point. All right. Well, we do have headlines with Tyler Zulli. Tyler, what do you got this morning?
Yeah, our headlines are brought to you by a group of people you just told us about, but why not tell you about them one more time? Of course, that's our friends over at Glad Hair Restoration, and because if you want to improve how you look and how you feel about yourself, Glad Hair has the right treatment for you. They're going to help you regain your confidence. Head on over to gladhairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started. So I was going to start with some Flyers and Sixers news before we got to the NFL, but breaking news as we got on the show today, just happened just a couple of minutes ago. The coming out of their bye week, the New York Giants will be benching Daniel Jones. So not a surprise there, John, that the 2-8 Giants are going to bench Daniel Jones because he stinks at football. Maybe the surprise comes in the form of who's going to replace him. Because
is it Cutlets?
The Giants seem to be skipping over Drew Lock and will be starting Tommy DeVito as their new starting quarterback. That to me is the more interesting conversation piece because that feels like to me we'd like to try to play for the number 1 pick. Thank you very much.
Yes. So Tyler, you're absolutely right. Like Daniel Jones was going to get benched.
Oh,
Brian Daboll,
Brian
stinks. Brian Daboll gave him no vote of confidence. It's no surprise. He sucks. He should be benched. Drew Lock hasn't been a starter in this league, a full-time starter. He's a former second-round draft pick who has played relatively well in a couple of different stops. Here's what I think it is. I think I don't know if Drew Lock gives you a better chance than Cutlets, maybe like a little bit. And I would be more interested in losing as many games as possible, which is maybe why you keep Daniel Jones in there because he does stink. But if they know that Drew Lock isn't the answer as the starter, and the only thing he could do is come in and play well, and then maybe people are like, oh, well, he should be the quarterback. He doesn't get that opportunity now. Tommy Cutlets is not going to be the starter. Everybody knows he's not going to be the starter. So are they figuring out whether this guy is their career backup? He's the guy that's the backup. He got cut. He didn't make the team coming out of training camp. It could have been, right? He got cut, right? He was on the practice squad or something, and they re-signed him. So, I mean, they need their quarterback of the future. So maybe Tommy Cutlets gives them the best chance to lose the most games. I don't know, though.
Well, the likelihood is they're probably going to be selecting a quarterback in the first round this year. And I guess the question is, A, where do they end up picking? And B, who do they end up picking, right? I think probably the front runner to be the number 1 quarterback off the board right now is Shedeur Sanders.
Cam Ward.
Cam Ward is in the conversation. I know Quinn Ewers has kind of fallen off the conversation piece a little bit.
Sure.
Carson Beck has definitely fallen out of that conversation. It'll be
You need a top 2 pick to get the top 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, probably.
Depending, because Carolina, are they going to take a quarterback?
They might.
Yeah, they might. I probably would.
I mean, they might.
Let me look right here real fast. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So worst team, the Browns.
The Browns might take a quarterback. I know they've invested $1 billion into Deshaun Watson, but
you can't come back.
Sunk cost at that point, right?
You can't come back with him. This is really going to be a tankathon. So check this out.
Vegas.
Check this out. The Patriots have 3 wins. They're not going to finish with the worst record. They have their quarterback anyway.
They're also not taking a quarterback.
Right. Yeah. May looks like he's going to be a pretty good player. Browns. They could easily take a quarterback. Jags aren't taking a quarterback. The Titans, if they would take a quarterback. The Raiders, absolutely. The Giants, absolutely. The Panthers, I would have to say absolutely.
I think they might. I know they've won 2 in a row, but
I think and they're probably going to play, and rightfully so. They're probably going to play. Why am I blanking on his name? Their quarterback.
Bryce Young.
Yeah, they should play him.
Yeah.
Bringing in Andy Dalton, kind of settling things down and having a professional was fine. But I think you got to go back out there. If he sucks as bad as he did before, then you take him out. But like, are you bringing back Bryce Young for year 3? I look at Bryce Young similar to Tua Tagovailoa, who a lot of people entering that year where he had the breakout year were questioning whether or not he was the quarterback and should they take a quarterback or should they move on. Tua's shown me more that he could be an NFL quarterback than Bryce Young has. And they surrounded him with talent, and bang, look what happens when you give him talent. I don't know if I'd give Bryce Young another shot if I get a chance at one of the top 2 quarterbacks. Just me.
Fair enough. All right, well, it'll be an interesting conversation. Obviously a handful of games left to play for most teams across the NFL. So in case you fell asleep last night, you missed a good one, 34-27, the Chargers. Chargers, good football team all of a sudden, huh? How about that? I think they've won now, 4 of their last 5.
That was blew it.
And yeah, so 4 of their last 5 since dating back to October 13th. They've beaten the Broncos. They lose to Arizona. Then they beat the Saints, the Browns, and the Titans. They've won 4 of their last 5 to get to 7-3. And then, of course, they beat the Bengals last night, 34-27. Bengals fall to 4-7 on the season. Now, I didn't realize how well Joe Burrow had been playing this season before somebody posted the stats. And let me go back and try to find them for you. Joe Burrow currently this year has thrown for over 3,000 yards. He has 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a 67% completion percentage, and the Bengals are 4-7.
Yeah, they also had 6 points until 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. So for everybody that wants to kill Jalen Hurts because of the slow starts, and listen, it's rightfully so, go after him. Look around the NFL and see what other elite quarterbacks, because I love Joe Burrow. I would pick Joe Burrow. There's a couple quarterbacks that I would take right now in the NFL if you're talking about like top 3, 4. Joe Burrow is certainly one of them. It's almost like Lamar Jackson as well. Hey, Lamar, you're not getting any more MVPs until you do something in the playoffs, all right? Jokic gone 2 straight MVPs without winning a championship. He was not getting a third MVP without winning a championship, right? So he wasn't winning that third MVP regardless because they kept losing in the playoffs. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. Dude, you got to beat the Steelers. You got to get to a Super Bowl before I'm even thinking about giving you a regular season award, which isn't supposed to be about the playoffs, right? So as much as I like Joe Burrow, dude, they had 6 points in the third quarter. They were down 27-6. Now, they came back. They scored 3 straight touchdowns to tie it, and then the Chargers went and they scored a touchdown. And there was a couple missed field goals by McGregor, who stinks. But
I don't even know his name.
Isn't it McGregor? Because I know
McPherson.
McPherson, not McGregor. That's Conor McGregor. I was thinking about this morning because people were talking about the Tyson fight and whatever else. But yeah, so like, all right, listen, Joe, I think you're a great player. You had 6 points, right? So everybody remember that. Anyway, man, he's putting up big numbers, and he did last night too.
Yeah, so final game tonight, of course, Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans in that one. So we'll update you on that one tomorrow. Let's get back to a little bit of local stuff. Flyers take on the Colorado Avalanche tonight. They look to extend their league high. Can't believe I just said that. Their league high 3-game winning streak. It's tied with a couple other teams. But a 3-game winning streak look to extend it to 4 tonight as the Avalanche come to town. The Flyers have beaten the Sharks, the Sens, and the Sabres in the last week. They'll take on the 9-9 Colorado Avalanche heading into this one tonight.
Yeah, they were big. They were underdogs against the Senators, and the Sabres, I'm assuming they suck because they've sucked for like 15 years. I don't know, like I haven't looked at the standings, but I'm assuming the Sabres suck. The Avalanche apparently do not suck because they were heavy favorites on the road tonight against the Flyers. I think it's minus. I was on the BetParks app earlier. I think it's like minus 190 or minus 195.
Yeah, I think Cale Maker has like 1,000 points already this season.
Who?
Cale Maker.
I never heard of him before.
Plays for Colorado.
I figured that out.
He's won a Norris. He's won a Calder. He's a 4-time MVP or a 4-time All-Star. He won a Smythe.
I don't do fake shows where I pretend I know things that I don't. I couldn't name you many hockey players across the NHL.
He has 25 points this year already, which is just absurd for a defenseman through 18 games.
He's a defenseman with 25 points. Holy crap!
Yes, 90 points last year, 86 a couple of years ago. He's a high points per point per game, to almost a point per game type of player. Was more than a point per game type of player last year, but he's got 25 points in his first 18 games.
I saw Michkov had a 2-point game over the weekend, and he's averaging nearly a point
he's been
a
good.
game. Yeah, he's been really
very
good.
good.
So go Flyers. They make me happy over the weekend. The other team does
the
not.
Sixers aren't going to because they are now 2-10 and they continue their two-game Florida road trip against the Miami Heat tonight. The Heat 5-7. This is a thrilling one that I know everybody's going to be locked into between a 2-10 and a 5-7 team in Miami.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this. Joel Embiid is questionable for the game with an illness. But he was horrendous in the second half of that Magic game. So, of course, that was the half I got to watch because I got home. Horrendous.
Well, I mean, you think about it too, right? I believe they had 72 points heading into the fourth quarter, which is not particularly good. But that means they scored 14 in the final quarter. They got outscored in the fourth quarter, 25-14. They lost by 12. It was a 73-72 game heading into the fourth quarter. They lost the game by 12.
Yeah, I was reading.
They were uncompetitive in the fourth quarter.
I was reading PHLY Daily this morning. It's delivered right to your inbox, and it's fantastic. You can get it by going to allphly.com. Rich Hoffman does an unbelievable job with it. But one of the things that he put in there, I feel the same freaking way. So, Tyler, how every one of our fan bases in Philly kind of has its own personality, right? Like the Flyers has always seemed like kind of its own separate because it's not it's not baseball or basketball or football. So it's kind of clearly the fourth in terms nationally. But Flyers fans are big fans and it has a big fan base, but they haven't been good for a really long time. Then the Phillies, then the Eagles, and the Eagles are the be-all, end-all. But the Sixers fan base since the process is a really odd fan base to me. There's a lot of protectors of the process that frankly don't deserve to be protected. I'm tired of hearing 76ers fans tell me this, stop being negative. They'll be fine. They're going to be fine. They're 2-10. This isn't a championship team. Sorry in November that I got to keep it real. This team's not winning squat this year unless you believe that they totally change it around and the Maxey McCain duo, along with Paul George and Joel Embiid, they'll be playing like we were talking earlier with the Eagles. You want to be hot at the right time entering the playoffs. That's the only way this team's winning everything. And Embiid is always going to be injured. I mean, for all the things we're saying, he missed this many games. He might as well have missed Saturday's game with the way he played in the freaking second half. They lost. They're 2-10. But I have so many Sixers fans that are in my DMs or just tweet me when, God forbid, I look at my mentions that are just mean in what they tweet me. It's like, Jesus Christ, I'm a fan. I'm watching these games. This team sucks. And Rich Hoffman said something similar in PHLY Daily today. He's like, he's tired of hearing it from 76ers fans too. This team sucks right now. Paul George sucks right now. Joel Embiid sucks right now. And I believe they're going to turn it around. There's a lot of talent on this team. But as far as, because McCain, Tyler, had a great game, and Maxey McCain.
I think you can evergreen that statement for a while until everybody's healthy, and then maybe they relegate his role a little bit. I think you can pretty much evergreen the statement. Jared McCain had a good game. The guy's been fantastic this year.
Rookie of the Year front runner now.
I mean, I think he probably has to be.
He is.
Based on usage, he has to be.
He's plus 250. And I forget who the second one is. His plus 300.
Listen, I understand we're 12 games into an 80. There's 70 games left, but he's got to be an early front runner.
10 games ago, I don't think he was listed.
Probably not.
Or like plus 10,000. We didn't know if he was going to be in the rotation. For crying out loud. Now, I mean, you look at now it's going to be Maxey and McCain when Tyrese comes back. What do they look like together? Because he's the starter. He will not go back on the bench at this point. Hopefully they can make it work and play together. But man, see, that's the exciting part about it. But I'm tired of these processed 76er fans that are telling me everything's fine. Stop being negative. No, you know what? Maybe it's not going to be fine. Why weren't they fine Saturday night?
Well, I think the only concern for me is when Tyrese Maxey returns, is playing the two of them together side by side. Is your backcourt is going to be very undersized.
Yeah.
Can you sustain that because of the fact that Paul George is tall and big. Joel Embiid's a staple defensively in the middle when he's healthy. Can you sustainably play with those two guards as your duo, as your backcourt? Because you will be undersized. You're going to be talented. You're going to score a lot. How much does your defense give up playing both of them?
Right.
But I don't know. You know what I mean?
And also, and this is not something that, everybody tells me that Nick Nurse can't do anything because he's got chicken bleep and he's trying to make chicken salad. But sometimes you got to make chicken salad out of chicken bleep. So, because you're right, Tyler, depending on the matchup is going to be how long you can play McCain and Maxey together over the course of a game. And that means knowing when to substitute, knowing when to get them out, knowing when to put them back in. And Nick Nurse has got to be able to work those combinations out. And he hasn't done a good job this year. Let's just call for what it's worth. They're 2-10, and it's a bad 2-10. Joel Embiid, no Joel Embiid. No excuse. No excuse. 12 games into a season, you're 2-10. Anything else there, Tyler, with the
No, I think that's all we got on the headlines today. We'll update you on Monday Night Football and those 2 games tomorrow when they happen.
Let's play some Doug Pederson. We'll play Doug. Let's do this. We're going to play Doug, who I think Doug Pederson is probably going to be fired today by the Jags. I'd be surprised if he wasn't. We're going to play a little bit of Doug, and then we'll get into some other stuff as well. But let's talk about our friends at BetParx. That's right. The only casino, only book that I would ever use. All right, BetParx right now to win the big game. So this is if you bet $100. The Lions are now the favorite to win the big game at plus 400. So if you bet $100 and they win, the Lions win, you'd win plus 400. You'd win 400. The Chiefs are plus 450. The Bills are plus 600. The Ravens are plus 800. And finally, the Birds at plus 900. Now, to win the NFC, Lions plus 160, Birds plus 350. Even after the Niners losing yesterday, they're plus 800. And then the Packers at 900. Yeah, God, they still expect the Niners to flick the switch. MVP, Josh Allen plus 150, Lamar plus 180. Lamar is not, sorry, he's disqualified from MVP. If he wins the Super Bowl this year, then I would consider, or even getting the Super Bowl, I consider it. Goff is plus 700. Jalen Hurts plus 1,200. Mahomes plus 1,300, Kyler Murray plus 1,600. I'd throw a shekel on Pat Mahomes. Last year, he was not the favorite at this point to win the MVP, and then very quickly he became the favorite. Sixers tonight at the Heat. Miami's favored by 3.5. And then Flyers at the Wells Fargo Center against the Avalanche. Minus 195 on the money line for Colorado, a big road favorite. Flyers are plus 160. ParksCasino.com. To buy tickets for shows, the Excite Center at Parks Casino is amazing. That's right. Actor Richard Kind from Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's January 24th. Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains, February 8th. Ron White, March 21st. And how about this? Coming up in December, Eric D'Alessandro, comedian. Dinners and drinks before the show. Liberty Bell Gastropub. I've had burgers and beers. They're amazing. Parks Grill Steakhouse. If you like high-end steakhouses, bam! And then the Bamboo Noodle House. ParksCasino.com. Parks Casino, this is how you win. BetParks.com has terms and conditions. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Michigan, or Maryland. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. BetParks. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, TrueMark. I'm a TrueMark financial customer. Donna actually from the Trooper branch reached out to me on Friday and reminds me that I have to email her back today. And she just very simply sent an email and said, just checking in. How are things going? Do you need anything? Could you imagine that happening at insert name of bank? You don't get that customer service at some of these other banks. And I've had good experiences with other banks that I've been with. Not like TrueMark. This is the kind of customer service that you are getting from TrueMark Financial. I opened up a business checking account. I had no friggin' idea what I was doing. I didn't have all the paperwork that I needed. They helped me. They walked me through everything. I got the business checking account opened. So maybe you're talking about personal checking, business checking, opening up a CD. Maybe you want to get back in the market for a new home. Their mortgage specialists can guide you through the process, tell you what current rates are, how much money do you need for a down payment. The kind of service and customer service you're getting at TrueMark Financial is amazing. TrueMark.com for more info. That's TrueMark.com. Check them out. All right. So Doug Pederson is most likely going to be fired today. Ian Rappaport and some other outlets were reporting before the game that not necessarily like he has to win in Detroit to save his job, but he can't go up there and get absolutely positively bludgeoned by the Lions. Well, at one point, Detroit scored 7 straight touchdowns. That was Tyler. Was that considered a bludgeoning yesterday? 52 to 6?
I think that's probably an appropriate word to use.
And then afterwards, and poor Doug, because we have seen him. Excuse me, I have the mucus issue in the back of my throat. We have seen Doug deer in the headlights like this in Philadelphia in his final year here. Well, here's Doug Pederson. He's being asked about being fired. Here's Doug after the game.
I can't control that, and you know, listen, I've been around this league a long time, and you know, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, obviously. But at the same time, I still have a job to do, and that's to you know, get ready for a good division opponent here in 2 weeks.
There you go. So they have the bye week. Oh, it sets up perfectly. And that's why it came out, which was like, this is the bye week when you make a quarterback change, Daniel Jones. When you make a coaching change, Doug Pederson. They'll probably have an interim job. You just wonder how good the Jags job is to a coach. We were talking about Ben Johnson and the Lions earlier. Is that a job that he would want with Trevor Lawrence? Some people may look at it, and I guess it depends on what other jobs are available. But do you want Trevor Lawrence as the guy that you're hitching your wagon to? I guess you could look at it and say he was the number one prospect since Andrew Luck to come out of college football. Why wouldn't you want him? Or you could say, yeah, I'm not. This isn't the first job that you get a job in the NFL and you don't succeed. It could be your last job, depending. It could really kill you. So I mean, I don't know. It depends, but like if. It's a somewhat attractive job with that. Ownership's not good. You look at Shad Khan, since he's been in the owner of the Jags, he's not had a good record. He's made several questionable decisions. And they have to travel to London every year for a couple of weeks, which like head coaches in the NFL don't like those type of distractions. They very much like it bland. They like to, they're at home games, away games. If they have to do an international game, that's one thing. But every year having to deal with that, I don't know how attractive a job that it is.
Well, you and I talked about it a few weeks ago about the potential of this guy, you know, losing his job. And the reason being is, you know, the tenure has not been particularly strong since the playoff. You know, they started, what was it, last year or 2 years ago? They started off super hot. I think it might have been last year. They started off super hot.
They crumbled.
They end up crumbling. Houston wins the division. This, by the way, is on the back of didn't 2 years ago they had a playoff win they were down like 30-0 or something, 28-0 or something.
Trevor Lawrence threw 3 or 4 interceptions in the first half.
And you go, okay, maybe Doug is the right guy for this job, and things have kind of crumbled since then. We talked a couple weeks ago about this happening, and I think the saving grace was they're not going to fire a guy when they're spending an extra week in London. Like, right. You know, they're not going to. They've got
new coach now has to be in charge for the first London game.
They're probably not. They would wait until they get back, and then it got worse and it got worse. They lose to the Eagles. They lose this week to the Lions in pretty laughable fashion. This is not a very. We thought it was a very good roster. This is not a very good roster. They've had a lot of injuries. The quarterback played the last couple of weeks with Mac Jones.
Yeah, you're not going to win many of those games.
But Travis Etienne has not gotten a lot of run. He's been banged up, but it seemed to me the best running back they've had this year so far was Tank Bigsby. BTJ is going to be a very, very good receiver in this league. But, you know, like Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, it's a bunch of like twos trying to masquerade as ones.
And it's a bunch of overpaid free agent wide receivers.
Right.
Tyler, when I talked about this at the time with Saquon, people are bitching about Saquon getting $26 million guaranteed. How much did freaking Kirk get guaranteed?
Got a lot.
How much money did they guarantee Gabe Davis? Because they play wide receiver, and that's the position now that everybody makes money. Who's made a bigger contribution to their team? Saquon Barkley or these wide receivers that make a ton of money in free agency? Right? And Saquon Barkley's impact has been. So it's Doug came in and took a 3-14 disaster by Urban Meyer, and they made the playoffs in year one.
Yep.
And they won a playoff game. And then they crumbled last year. So the first year and a half with Doug was great. And when it falls apart with Doug, man, you had said this before we went on the air. It happens quick.
Well, and again, I think that there has to be something to be said for a guy like hitching his entire career to
bad coordinators,
to Press Taylor.
Yeah,
like it's not entirely that 1-2 combination, but I just don't understand it. It didn't work here after a while. And you said, nah, it wasn't us. Let's run it back. You're seeing it again. Again, this is not a tremendously gifted football team, but it's not a drag team.
It's not a well-coached team, but yeah,
No.
they're not the Patriots with no talent on offense, right? To have 2 wins right now. Well, I mean, you also have to question their effort, right? They gave up 52 points. I know they're outmatched, but anyway. So that's the story with Doug. Couple other NFL notes here. The Chiefs lose to the Bills, and that is the best loss that you're going to get all year for the Chiefs. Because here's what it does. It was a hard-fought game. It was a good game. The Bills just had a little bit more. It was at home. It was a bigger game for the Bills than it was for the Chiefs. Also, get a loss out of the way. It had already started after they won the 9th game. Oh, undefeated. You guys want to be undefeated? Are you going to be undefeated? Or you rest players at the end of the year? Undefeated. Remember the Eagles? I remember doing this show a lot where I was like, lose a game now. Lose a game. We don't want the undefeated talk. And I firmly believed it. This is a good loss for the Chiefs. They lose. They get the loss under them. Boom. Now this kind of naturally starts the second half of the season because this is a team that's won 2 in a row and they very easily could win 3 in a row. It's a good game yesterday. Josh Allen played well. That touchdown run that he had to ice the game was unbelievable. And they're not solely reliant on Josh Allen on offense. When Joe Brady came in, he took over for Ken Dorsey. He said, we're going to run the football. And they're running the football, even when it's not successful. They don't need great wide receivers. They traded for Amari Cooper. That's fine. They're winning because they're a good team. So the Bills, it'll be interesting to see the Bills where they go for the rest of the season. The Steelers and the Ravens. Pittsburgh's defense is unbelievable.
Really good. Really, really good.
Man, that was one of those AFC North games that a lot of field goals, a lot of missed opportunities on offense. Lamar Jackson's got to win one of these games, period. Lamar Jackson, I know I said this earlier, and that I'm not giving him an MVP unless he goes to a Super Bowl. Obviously, the MVP voting is taken before the playoffs start. I guess my point is right now, I wouldn't vote for him for MVP because I'm not buying that he's winning a Super Bowl when he continues to lose games like this.
Yeah, I don't think the two have as much connectivity as you do, because it is a regular season award. I get it, right? It is most valuable to your team, and how do you elevate your team? You take Lamar Jackson off that Baltimore team. They've got some talent, but Lamar Jackson is their engine. He has been for 5 years now. You know, and that's why to me, I understand the merit of it can't just be a quarterback award all the time, but there may not be a team that is as driven by their quarterback play when they're playing good football than the Ravens are.
Right.
Lamar Jackson is their entire engine.
I think Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback. When he could have been traded for. Teams made mistakes. The Jets could have traded first-round draft picks and got Lamar Jackson, and they should have. The Ravens ended up lucking out that he stayed. There's a lot of quarterbacks that don't make the Super Bowl, right? And when you watch these games, even when he's playing at an MVP level in the regular season, which he clearly has, he's that kind of a player, gets to a point where it's I don't care. You got to win in the playoffs. And the same thing was happening with Jokic. Clearly, Jokic was a great regular season player. Steve Nash won, and I know I'm crossing sports here, which is dangerous. Steve Nash won 2 MVPs, but they didn't do squat when they got to the playoffs. It's the same thing. All right, for you to be considered for winning another MVP, let's see what you do in the playoffs. Because if you remember that Chiefs game last year, and the Chiefs defense was great, the whole game plan was to make Lamar Jackson beat them with his arm. And he couldn't do it. So I'm rooting for Lamar. I like the Ravens. I root for the Ravens. I like the Ravens. But he wasn't good yesterday.
No, he wasn't. And I'm not going to.
And Justin Tucker sucks too. That's unbelievable.
I'm not absolving him of poor play yesterday. He continues to have some weird ghosts against the Steelers for some reason. It's
a good defense.
It is. It's a very, very good defense. I think my point I'm trying to make here is, I get that, yes, in order to elevate a quarterback to a certain status or to elevate any player to a certain status, you do, in fact, have to win in some big spots. But, I also have to take into consideration that these are regular season awards. And if that's the case, if this truly is a regular season award, who is the most valuable player to their team that is a contributor to their team? Now, I think you have to find a middle ground between the dead stop.
Saquon should be in the top 5 there, and he's not getting any consideration.
He probably should be. There's no question about it. He has elevated this team to another level when they needed him to. But so what I'm saying is, if you're looking at it from the lens of what the award is, it's value. But see that's skewed then, right?
I don't. Yeah, but like it's see you. What I'm learning about you, Tyler, is you are very technically driven. So you're like, regular season award. This is how they play in the regular season.
Correct.
This is what I'm supposed to be voting on. I'm not voting on that. I'm voting on the failure of Lamar Jackson in winning in big games previously, to where I only want to hear it.
So let me ask you a question. If you had to pick today who your MVP of the league would be, who are you taking? Because I think there's a couple of answers that are fine.
It ain't Lamar Jackson.
And by fine, I don't mean like they're
Josh Allen.
They're good secondary answers. They're correct answers. Josh Allen's a fair answer. He's played some really good football this year.
Yep, and they have a better record now. It's not the end of the year, and if the Ravens are the number 1 seed, then he probably is going to win it again. What I'm saying is I'm tired of hearing about MV3 and all this other crap with Lamar Jackson. It's time to win one of these games, man. It just is. Like, and Justin Tucker, did we feel like we were watching the Eagles game yesterday with Justin Tucker? It's crazy, and I know he hit a field goal later, but to go from maybe the best kicker in the history of the NFL to he's missing just average field goals, and he really cost the team yesterday. Jake Elliott's going to become a problem if he doesn't start hitting some field goals here. So two of the better kickers over the last however many years since Jake Elliott became a full-time kicker in 2017. It was unbelievable. So is Justin Tucker. We know that. Man, it's just crazy to see how quickly it can go south. The Packers also yesterday, they won a very, very fortunate win for the Packers. Bears should have won that game. Another freaking field goal blocked. A gimme field goal, too.
Pretty easy one, too.
I don't know if I guess I was on Red Zone, but whoever was doing the game was saying it might have been Olsen, wanted the Bears to take another play, even if it was a running play, to get a couple more yards to get closer. Because he's like, aren't they going to run another play? Like he was saying, they got to run another play. And then it became apparent they weren't going to, and they took it down to 4 seconds and they called a timeout. Now, I don't know if that would have mattered, but still, wouldn't you like to be 5 yards closer to a field goal? Maybe it doesn't get blocked because he doesn't kick. I don't know. But, man, what a bad loss for the Bears.
I think that's another one of those situations, and we've talked about it a couple of times this year with, like, going for 2 versus not going for 2. That's another one of those situations where it's kind of a, damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because if they run a play and there's a botched snap, there's a penalty, there's a fumble, then you're thinking about just the doomsday scenario that it would be. He makes the field goal. We're not having this conversation, right? It doesn't get blocked.
He makes a very makeable field goal.
We're not so there's a lot of different conversation pieces around, how do you make the right call? I tend to agree with you and with Greg Olsen that, maybe unless you like what you're trying to do in that situation is maybe grab 2 or 3 more yards and get to the side of the field that your kicker prefers. And if you have only one of 2 options, you're getting to the side of the field that your kicker prefers.
It was a 46-yard field goal. That's not a gimme.
No, but it's makeable, and it's
in today's game,
game.
It's an average field goal. Yes, Santos got blocked.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate conversation that there's no right answer except the one that plays out on the field, right? Like there's no crystal ball like hindsight 22, or there is a hindsight answer. There's no foresight crystal ball type of answer to give you the right answer.
All right,
it's unfortunate. You know what I mean? Like I do feel for Bears fans in that regard today.
I don't feel for screw the Bears, screw the Packers, screw them all. Yeah, you wonder if that job, because Eberflus is going to get whacked. You wonder if that job, if Caleb Williams, again, great prospect coming out, first overall pick. I don't know, man. There's something off with him. I don't know what it is. Apparently, he stood up in front of he talked at the team meeting and took responsibility for a lot of their struggles, which the veterans appreciated. At least according to the insiders that are out there. All right, a couple more things before we get out of here. It's official now, Tyler Zulli. I am a beta male. Enough people have told me I'm a beta male. It started off with having the fake tree. So I was told by people, and again, this is what happens when I look at my mentions on Twitter, and it's why I haven't done that for years, and now I'm back to doing it a little bit. But I did a little Q&A yesterday morning because it was 8 o'clock. I didn't get a lot of sleep. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do questions, comments, suggestions on Twitter. Let's see who's up right now. And the fake tree was earlier in the week where the guy's like, that's such a beta move. I'm like, shut up. A fake tree is a beta move. But I was again told that no, it was on Friday. So I pick up my daughters from school every day. I get in the car line at probably like 10 after 3. I have my baby with me. I have my 3-year-old with me. And it's a nice little, we're in the car for like 25 minutes, 20 minutes, and I get some work done. I'll send some tweets. I'll send some emails. It's good. It's good time in the car with my daughter too for stuff. And I really, really enjoy it. And I was told by somebody out there, I was called a beta male. He didn't use that word for it, but some other people did, for picking up my kids from school for going in the car line.
Wait, what?
Yes. That it matures them, and I should pull up the tweet, but more or less like, no, you should have them ride the bus.
Let them walk home or ride the bus?
Let them ride the bus, yes.
But
so Tyler, truth be told, that last year when I wasn't working the early shift, I would take them to school, or once or twice a week, depending, I would take them to the bus stop.
Okay.
Because if they would have said, Daddy, we don't want to take the bus, I wouldn't make them take the bus for 1 second. Right? Like, I don't give a damn. But like, there is something to taking a bus and feeling uneasy about being the young kid on the bus or whatever. Like, I'm fine with that. But like, I'm picking them up from school. If they took the bus, they get home 40 minutes later than when I pick them up. For whatever reason, it takes them 40 minutes. From 3:37 is when they start coming outside. 4:21 is when they would get off the bus. Something like that.
Yeah, we were. I remember my brother and I were the last, either the last stop or the second to last stop most years, because we were kind of on the other side of Ben Salem for where we went to school. It was a good half an hour, 40-minute ride most days.
We're 4 minutes away from the school.
Oh, see, that's problematic. Well, so, why does it take so long?
The buses come late,
that's so silly.
It's crazy, right? But like, I have a third grader and a second grader, and my favorite part of my day is watching them when they call, like, because you line up and then you have like a number, and then they call the numbers, and then they come out and they line up to get in your car.
Sure.
My favorite part of any day is watching the two of them come running out to go to the spot where they meet me at the car. It's like every day. Like, this ain't going to happen forever. The kids are going to grow up.
Yeah,
so,
and I've said this to you before, and I've said this on the air, and I don't. You're telling a story about your kids, so I think you're okay with me saying this. And if you're not, I apologize. You talk to your kids most mornings.
Yeah.
And when you pick up the phone and the excitement, the hi dad that you get from that phone call, like, they are excited to talk to you every day.
Yeah.
And you're right. How long does that last for? Because you're going to hit teenage years, and then you're going to be the not cool dad anymore. And then it re-hits, right? Because we all went through it as kids with our parents. Like,
sure.
You get to a point where you're the angsty, cool teenager, and your parents aren't cool anymore. And then you get to be like 19, 20, 21, 22. You get into, young adulthood, and you go, oh, wow, yeah, mom and dad were right about a lot of things. And then you're friends with your parents again. Like, I'm friends with my parents now, and it's a really cool relationship to have. But that, like, getting to be your kid's, like, best friend when they're that young and excited to talk to you and see you in the car line, that's not going to last for you forever. You get to enjoy it while you can.
And I make me a beta male. I'm picking them up every day that I can. Everybody that's watching on TV, thank you. You can go to all PHLY to watch the rest of the show, or jump over to YouTube and check it out. But yeah, so if that means I'm a beta male, it's my new favorite thing, Tyler. Is that he's a beta.
Fellas, is it lame to be a good dad? Apparently it is.
I had a couple of when I left WIP, I had a couple of, like, again, I didn't do a lot of looking. I don't. Especially when it's stuff where the a-holes are going to be out there, but I don't look for comments on social media. But like, friends or my wife will be like, "You see what they're saying?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't see what they're saying," because I know what they're saying. But when I left WIP, I had people that were saying like, "Oh, your wife made you leave WIP, you beta male, bleepity bleep," and it's like, all right, so let's get this straight. So my wife, who wasn't working and was full-time mom, now is going to have her life completely uprooted because I'm quitting my well and high-paid job for uncertainty and no job in the future. And now she has to go back to work full-time while I figure things out. Yes, that's exactly what she wanted. That's exactly what she asked for. Yes, she demanded that I quit so we could do that. Yeah.
Somebody said in the chat, F1 or FI7 says, John can't wait to embarrass his kids come like junior high and high school.
I'm already doing it, man. Believe me, I'm already doing you don't realize where the bad jokes come from until you're the dad, and it just becomes very easy. And by the way, here's the other thing with the parents, like you had said, you become friends with them again, and then you start drinking with them and hanging out with them. But when you start having kids, everything hits you like a ton of bricks.
Oh, I told
it all makes sense, Tyler.
I texted my dad that literally the day my son was born. I texted him a picture. I said, hey, I would like you to meet your grandson. Can't wait for you to meet him. And by the way, you were right about everything. Yeah. And I'm like, I will protect this child with my life.
Yeah.
And it they put him in my arms, and I'm like, I get it now. I get it all. It makes so much sense.
It does. It truly does. All right, last thing. I'm officially in the Christmas music mode. My wife found it's like on Amazon. It's like Pop Christmas or something.
Okay.
Because I get generally fatigued of the old school Christmas, and it's nice. I like it. But when I've heard Rocking Around the Christmas Tree by whoever the lady is or whatever.
Between Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole.
It's nice to have some variety.
Sure.
And Amazon Music they're all new artists that are doing, and they're not, a lot of them are original too. I've been jamming. I was in the car lots this weekend. All Christmas music all the time. Let's go. Feel the same way, Tyler? I know you're not the big Christmas music.
So I am not a huge Christmas music guy, but I will say this. My son was not. He was being fussy the other day. Well, didn't want to sleep, and we were trying everything. We were trying the lullabies and the Disney music and the everything just to get him to take his nap. I'm like, you know what? We're going to put Christmas music on. I think he made it a song and a half, and he was sleeping like a baby. So maybe there's going to be a lot of Christmas music in my house this year. I don't know. I'm not a huge Christmas music guy until 2-3 weeks out, because I agree with you. I do think there is Christmas music fatigue pretty quickly. But if it works and it's going to help us get some sleep at night, there may be a lot of Christmas music in my house in the next couple of weeks.
Jingle bells, jingle. The Frank Sinatra Jingle Bells is an excellent one, by the way. All right, we'll be back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Shout out to everybody that's watching live on YouTube, the Mad Chatters. Appreciate you guys as we grow our community. The podcast is available. And it was weird on Friday because I always check it. Sometimes I'd like to hear what it sounds like in the ears and not visually to get a feel for what our audio podcast listeners are. And Apple Podcasts took it was like a half hour after Tyler posted it that it actually got up, because I searched somewhere else and it was like, oh, well, it is up. But anyway, we will get it to you. Wherever you find your podcast, just search Philly with Jon Marks and leave some good reviews. Give us some 5 stars so more people can find our show. And we will be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Click over to Anthony. He's live right now. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.